When I first saw the notice taped to my front door, I thought it was another neighborhood spam, some volunteer asking for bake sale donations or a brochure for gutter cleaning. Instead, it was a police summons. Your presence is required at the station concerning allegations of assault. My heart lodged in my throat because the only person I'd ever laid a hand on was my Labrador Rocket when he stole my sandwich. And that was clearly not against the law, right? The story began 2 weeks earlier when I decided to repaint my front door. I'd settled for a tasteful teal the previous owner picked, and it never felt quite right. After a weekend of late night research and 2 gallons of sample paint, I finally found the perfect color. A bold flamingo pink that felt like sunshine mixed with a margarita. I pictured spring bulbs blooming and neighbors tipping their hats in admiration. I did not imagine claws. Uh, Enter Karen, my HOA president, or as I like to call her, the neighborhood's self-appointed aesthetic police master. The day after I finished the door, I found her in her colonel's cap and clipboard, stalking my front steps like she was inspecting a crime scene. "That color is garish," she said, arms crossed over her designer cardigan. "It violates the subtle palette clause." I laughed. "Subtle palette clause?" She whipped out her phone and read me the exact sentence, complete with bylaw references that would make a lawyer blush. I tried to reason with her. "Can't we update the rules? More expression? Less gray vinyl siding?" She sniffed, leaned in, and hissed, "Not a chance." Then she sneered, "Consider this your first violation." With that, she marched up her driveway and vanished behind her hedges, clipboard clutched like battle orders. That night, I lay awake on the couch watching crime dramas. I figured if I waited a day, she'd forget, or I'd file a petition. The next morning, I found a second notice, a $250 fine payable within 7 days for unauthorized color modification. Alongside it, a photo. My door, wide-angle lens, framed in a harsh blue border like evidence in a tabloid expose. She had hired a professional photographer, or worse, a drone, to capture the damn thing. This was petty, even for HOA standards, but I was determined to fix it. I filled out an appeal form, attached a mood board, and proposed a community vote on new color options. I even offered free key lime pie at the meeting. But Karen shot it down. She convened an emergency midnight session, no notice to me, and unanimously upheld my fine. I paid the fine, seethed in obedience, and vowed to play nice. What did I know? The fine was just the beginning. A week later, I walked to my car wearing my best "I'm here to be neighborly" face and tripped over my welcome mat. I sprawled in front of Karen's house, landing on the exact spot where she'd reconstructed her limestone mailbox last year. I sat up, dazed, and there she was at her kitchen window, peering down with a smirk like she'd just scripted the entire scene. I caught sight of her phone. She was filming me like I was a YouTube prank. Embarrassed, I thanked my good fortune that I hadn't broken my wrist or, worse, sprayed my new pants with grass stains. I tried to brush it off, but Karen, because she lived for drama, decided I must have meant to do it. She stomped out, shrill as a fire alarm. "You attacked me," she screeched. "You grabbed my arm and shoved me." I reached to show her I was unarmed and innocent, but she screamed louder and pointed to her elbow like it was bleeding profusely. In reality, it looked like a faint red mark, maybe from leaning on a garden rake. I backed away, stunned, while she called 911. Neighbors peeked out. Rocket barked. I tried to explain. "I tripped and fell, on my own mat. I didn't push you." She didn't listen. The flashing lights of police cars arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers stepped out, approached Karen first, and she gave them the full victim performance. Tears, trembles, that quiver of righteous outrage. Then they asked me to come down to the station to make a statement. I knew I wouldn't stand a chance against her sobbing monologue and clipboard documentation unless I had proof. My security camera, mounted above the door, had recorded everything. My clumsy trip, my flailing arms, and Karen's dramatic collapse to the ground. But I wasn't at home to show it. I stepped into the patrol car, handcuffed for processing, and watched Karen gloat through the station window. At the precinct, I sat in the holding room for what felt like hours, mentally rehearsing my defense. Should I confess to clumsiness and apologize, or should I let the camera footage speak? When I finally got called in, I noticed the sergeant reviewing a thumbnail image on his tablet, the grainy but unmistakable file name, frontporchmatter.mp4. A grin tugged at my lips. Karen thought she'd won. She thought the police would believe her, but she had no idea her weapon, the lie, had been recorded in HD. As I walked into the interrogation room, I squared my shoulders. The camera was my witness, and Karen's entire narrative was about to implode. End of Generation 1. I sat across from Sergeant Mills, heart pounding as he pressed play on the tablet. The screen lit up with my front porch, Biscuit wagging his tail in the background. Then came my grand entrance, tripping over the mat and sprawling forward. No shove, no malicious shove, just gravity, clumsiness, and panic. Next, Karen marched into view, her elbow brushing the rake handle, then deliberately collapsing to the ground as if I'd body slammed her. Sergeant Mills leaned back, eyebrows raised. "Well," he said, tapping the screen, "that's not assault. Looks like she staged the whole thing." He turned to the officer guarding the door. "Call Ms. Lawson back in and apologize." Relief crashed over me like a tidal wave. I stood, practically levitating, and watched him walk to the booking room. Karen emerged seconds later, cheeks pink and eyes wild, forced to her feet by Officer Diaz. Her venomous glare landed squarely on me, like she wanted to punch me herself. The sergeant cleared his throat. "Ma'am, it appears your complaint was unfounded. No charges will be filed." Her lips curled into a snarl. She flapped her clipboard like a bird with broken wings. "This isn't the end," she spat as she stormed out. I breathed deeply, thanked the sergeant, and left the station with a grin so wide my cheeks hurt. That evening, I posted the unedited footage, no commentary, just raw truth, and captioned it, "HOA Karen versus Gravity, who wins?" It went viral in our subdivision within minutes. Neighbors shared it, laughing at her over-the-top collapse. Comments ranged from "epic fail" to "my sides hurt." I sipped tea on my porch as view counts climbed. By the weekend, Karen's phone blew up. Friends texted her gifs of cartoon characters slipping on banana peels. A few asked if she was okay. Most just sent laughing emojis. I watched a notification. "Your video reached 500 views." Then 1,200, then 3,000. That night, even my mailbox got in on the fun. A neighbor slipped me a note scrawled in green marker, "Thanks for the LOL, keep 'em coming." But I wasn't done. Karma, after all, is best served with a side of creative flair. Monday morning, I strolled into the HOA office, her office, carrying a box of donuts. I pitched it as a peace offering. "Let's start fresh, Karen," I said, offering her a maple bacon donut. "We both love community harmony, right?" She recoiled, dipped her head, and shoved the box back at me. "Save it," she snapped. I nodded, took a donut anyway, and set the box on her credenza. Inside were not just donuts, but USB drives taped to the bottom. Each drive held the front porch video, my appeal paperwork, her drone footage, and dozens of photos of every petty violation she'd ever documented. Lawn gnomes, chalk drawings, mailboxes painted turquoise all across the neighborhood. I smiled. "For your files," I said. She flinched. "How? Where?" "Oh, I have sources," I lied, turning on my heel. By Tuesday, the HOA board had convened an emergency meeting. I joined via Zoom, muted, camera on, while Karen tried to demand exclusion. President Lugo barked, "We need transparency. Let's watch the video." For 30 glorious seconds, the room fell silent. Then came laughter. Board members chuckled, snorted, and one chap nearly fell out of his chair. Karen's face turned as red as my front door. Afterwards, Lugo cleared his throat. "This misuse of authority and false complaint violates our ethics clause. Karen Franklin is hereby suspended from HOA duties indefinitely." My heart soared. Karen sputtered protest, but the motion passed unanimously. Best part, I didn't have to vote. Word leaked to the local news. The Channel 8 reporter arrived at my house, camera crew in tow, and I walked them through my color change process, the dog banning fiasco, and finally, the porch trip video. It aired that evening. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from neighbors, old friends, and even people in nearby towns who wanted to know how to pull off their own Karen expose. By Thursday, Karen's email was a flood of unsubscribers, resignation demands, and petitions to oust her permanently. She tried one last stunt, handing out flyers dressed as a postal carrier, warning of unauthorized citizens' tribunals. But no one took them. Kids used them as scrap paper. A couple taped them to the backs of other HOA notices. One creative soul folded them into paper airplanes. Meanwhile, Biscuit continued his epic runs through the dog park I'd built on that reclaimed lot behind her house. He chased tennis balls, dug holes for buried bones, and made new puppy friends. Neighborhood kids waved at me every time I passed by. Karen watched it all from her window, arms folded, a cyclone of bitterness brewing. And honestly, I still felt a twinge of pity for her. She'd lost her power, her reputation, and even her dignity, all because she lied and Gravity told the truth. But the story wasn't over. Oh no, Gravity had paved the way, but Tahoe had plans of his own. Gravity left its mark on Karen, but Biscuit had other ideas. The morning after the HOA board voted to suspend her over the false assault claim, I let Biscuit loose in the yard with extra kibble tucked into his bowl. He shot out like a cannonball, sniffing every flower bed, especially the one Karen had fussed over for so many years. I watched from the porch, sipping coffee, when Biscuit's ears perked up at something shiny near the fence. He nosed it, barked once, and returned triumphant with Karen's phone. Her iPhone lay face up, cracked screen and all, probably dropped in her panic during that epic fall. Biscuit gagged on a grin and trotted over, tail wagging like a metronome. I held up the confiscated phone like a prize. No need to rub it in, but the moment felt delicious. I slid on gloves, tapped her lock screen, and laughed. Notifications galore. Group chats titled Team Karen, endless texts demanding her reinstatement, and one ominous message: "Shh, she'll pay for this." Within minutes, I had new evidence of her vendetta. Not just the staged fall, but dozens of secret audio recordings she'd made during stakeouts of my property. An entire playlist of Biscuit's barks and my lawnmower. Some were labeled Day 14, illicit howl at 6:03 p.m. One unbelievable clip had her muttering, "I should plant a cactus in his bed." I saved the entire folder to my computer, slapped a label on it, and prepared for the next phase. Karen stormed onto her porch, bare feet on the cold cement, staring at me like a vengeful gargoyle. "Give that back," she screeched. "That's private property." I raised an eyebrow. "Funny, your phone was in my backyard." "You mind explaining?" She sputtered, eyes darting. I pocketed the phone. "Oh, don't worry. You'll get it back once you reach out to the board and formally apologize for obstruction of justice." Her face drained color. "I will never apologize to you." "Then you'll never see your phone again." I strolled inside and locked the screen with a passcode she'd never guess. Over the next few days, I launched a targeted social media campaign. I posted clips of her staged collapse, screenshots of her phony stakeouts, and even a blooper reel of her trying to film me from behind a hedge, only to be photobombed by my neighbor's cat. The hashtag Karen Caught on Cam trended among our subdivision's online groups. Karen's phone buzzed nonstop with mockery, memes, and goodwill messages. She tried to block everyone, but her phone was logged into Team Karen group chats on 3 different platforms. She couldn't escape the notifications. Inside the HOA office, the board watched my content pulled up on the big screen. Board President Lopez cleared his throat. "Miss Franklin, we've reviewed this new evidence. This is beyond petty. It's harassment." Karen jumped up, red-faced, yelling, "You're all biased," before someone in the back flipped off her camera. The vote was unanimous. Karen would be expelled from the HOA altogether, not just suspended. She would no longer hold any title or privileges. But Biscuit wasn't finished. One afternoon, I arrived home to find my car's antenna bent like a question mark. Written in paw prints on the driver's door was a mocking message: "Catch me if you can." My heart sank, until I noticed a leash attached to the antenna. Biscuit had led me down the street to Karen's new rental, a boxy little place plastered with moving company stickers. In the front window sat her beloved potted orchids, drooping. Beside them, her phone perched on a speaker blasting, "What else?" Biscuit's victory howl. I rang her doorbell. No answer. I tapped on the glass. Biscuit barked. The speaker crackled with Karen's recorded voice shrieking, "Get off my property!" Then silence. I unlocked the door, she had left it ajar, and stepped inside. The place was trashed. Knocked over furniture, scribbled Post-its plastering the walls, and a hastily written resignation letter on the kitchen table. I grabbed the letter and read aloud. "I withdraw all claims. I resign from HOA. I apologize to Mr. Tanner. I am sorry for the audio harassment and false allegations. May I please have my phone back?" I smiled. "Dog says hi." Biscuit nuzzled my leg, tongue out, proud as a pup could be. Karen slunk in from the bedroom, eyes goopy with tears and mascara. She raised a fist. I held up her phone. "You built a fortress of lies, then Gravity and a Labrador tore it down." She crumpled. "Please, give it back." On one condition, I held her gaze. You issue a public apology, video captioned, "I was wrong. Then we'll talk." She nodded jerkily, typed a quick apology in shaky handwriting, and posted it to our community page. By bedtime, it had 200 comments. "About time. Justice for Tanner. And can we get biscuits instead of carrots now?" The next day, I returned her phone, its screen now covered in paw smudges. She took it like a defeated monarch receiving mercy. As I walked away, I glanced back. She was wiping her tears, pressing her hands together like a prayer of regret. Biscuit barked twice, as if congratulating me. I ruffled his fur. Week by week, the online hate died down. Neighbors stopped giving Karen the stink eye in the street. The HOA board rebranded itself with a new mission statement: community first, no clipboards needed. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. Karma had 4 legs and wagged its tail whenever Karen's phone buzzed with a new notification. And Biscuit, he got an extra treat that night. Karen's apology video posted at dawn seemed like the end of the saga. She stood on her porch, shaky voice and watery eyes, saying, "I was wrong. I'm sorry, Mr. Tanner." That clip got 500 likes overnight. Neighbors sent thumbs up emojis and heart reactions. For 24 glorious hours, Karen was quiet. No podcasts, no flyers, no late night stakeouts. The world hugged itself and thought, maybe this is finally over. It wasn't. Day 2, she emailed the HOA board demanding reinstatement. Her subject line, "Redemption and New Beginnings." Inside, a 2,000-word manifesto about community healing, unity, and her plan to spearhead a dog-friendly zone, in her own backyard this time, complete with mandatory Karen's cookies for all pups. The board chair, still giggling from the apology video, replied simply, "We'll review it," then forwarded her manifesto to me with the note, "Can you guess our response?" I answered, "Nice try." Karen went underground for a week. I assumed she was plottings right. One Saturday morning, I saw her at the park entrance wearing a printed t-shirt that read, "Karen's Comeback Rally." A folding table held guest sign-in sheets, pamphlets titled 9 Ways to Curb Dog Joy, and a stack of neon green ribbons. She looked more like a carnival barker than a neighbor. I strolled up, Biscuit by my side. He barked twice, his signal that business was about to get interesting. Karen beamed. "Welcome, everyone," she shouted into a handheld megaphone. 4 people trickled in. Her cousin Earl, Bob the yard snitch, 2 lost joggers. One jogger clapped politely. The other stared blankly, then drifted away. Karen cleared her throat. "We're here to restore decency, to protect property lines." She pointed at Biscuit's leash. "No dog should even think of." Biscuit lunged forward, tail wagging, and knocked the ribbons off the table. They fluttered like confetti. The jogger who clapped before stifled a laugh. Bob looked horrified. Earl tried to catch a ribbon, then sighed and walked off. The rally collapsed under its own futility. Karen stomped her foot, shouted, "You'll all regret this," and stormed off. I picked up a fallen ribbon, tied it around Biscuit's collar. "We got a volunteer," I said. That afternoon, I decided to give Karen one more chance by inviting her to a community suggestion box session at the park. The board and I had installed a bright orange box labeled Community Ideas. We emptied it every Friday and acted on the best suggestions. Neighbors loved it. It felt participatory. Karen, of course, filed a formal complaint that the box violated historical aesthetics. So I took the box inside my house, opened it, and tiptoed through her suggestions. Under receipts for guacamole purchases and hotel minibar tabs, imprinted with HOA dues accountant's name, I found laminated sheets praising her leadership, signed by Team Karen. Then a dozen flyers she'd slipped through mail slots promising a Karen restoration movement, listing illegal bylaw updates and tribute songs, all in her Comic Sans dictatorship font. I saved each one, emailed them to the board, and titled the thread, "More Lies from HQ." The board convened a closed session and emerged with a decree. Karen was permanently banned from attending any HOA function or accessing HOA records. They posted it to the website with the headline, "Protecting Our Community from False Leaders." Word spread. A neighbor printed it on a t-shirt, "Karen Free Zone." Someone else made a yard sign, "No Karen beyond this point." Biscuit posed proudly by both. Still, Karen refused to vanish. Next, she bought a billboard that faced the dog park entrance. Bright pink, giant letters. "The Great Plot Twist. Karen's back." I drove past it on errands and nearly spit out my coffee. Only in this neighborhood could an eviction become a spectacle. That night, I snuck out, no flashlight, because discretion is the better part of valor, and snipped the billboard's power supply. The lights went dark. Beneath the paint, I chalked at the bottom, "Plot twist. This is a dog park, not a soap opera." By morning, the billboard company had replaced the bulbs, but the chalk remained. Someone tagged underneath, "Karenism exposed." On Friday, the community suggestion box overflowed with one idea: rename our street Biscuit Boulevard. It got unanimous support. The mayor's office is now processing petitions. That'll take months, but the dream is alive. Where was Karen through all this? I spotted her in her living room window, phone glued to her face, her reflection in the glass a twitchy cartoon. I waved. She glared back like a cat caught in a laser pointer's beam. I tipped my hat, kissed Biscuit on the head, and walked away. Because sometimes the best revenge is to let karma's camera roll and the people vote. I watched the sunrise from Biscuits Boulevard, soon to be our official street name, and smiled. Today was the fireworks finale. Karen had one last move. She petitioned the county to declare my dog park an unauthorized amusement zone. She even hired a jittery lawyer who insisted that a park where dogs play and neighbors laugh was a clear and present danger to public decorum. The county board meeting hall smelled like stale coffee and bad croissants. I strolled in with Biscuit, wearing a t-shirt that read, "Evidence wins." The front row was packed with friends holding signs, "Trust the footage," and "No more clipboards." Karen swaggered in behind us, sporting an "I was right" baseball cap and flanked by her two remaining loyalists, Earl and Bob. They looked like extras in a revenge movie that got terrible reviews. The hearing began. Karen's lawyer thundered, "My client's anguish over neighborhood aesthetics is real." He waved a laminated copy of the HOA bylaws. Karen nodded solemnly. Then it was my turn. I pulled up the security footage, full HD, time-stamped with audio. I reminded them of her false assault claim, the staged collapse, the secret recordings, the staged rallies, the billboard disaster, and the leaking irrigation pipe incident. Each strike hit home like a gavel. By the time I finished, the board chair adjusted his glasses. Miss Franklin's petition is denied. Furthermore, her repeated misuse of HOA authority and filing of frivolous complaints have been referred to the district attorney. The room erupted in muted applause. Earl and Bob slumped forward in shame. Karen's face blanched. I offered her a polite nod. "Justice served," I said. Karen bolted. She whispered something about tyranny as she fled. I saw her dash across the hall into the bathroom, only to find it locked. I left her to her echoing wretches. Outside, neighbors cheered. A dog walker handed me a celebratory hot dog. An old lady kissed my cheek. I patted Biscuit, whispering, "We did it, buddy." That afternoon, the district attorney's office delivered its letter, criminal charges for filing false police reports and harassment. Karen faced fines and community service. Likely at Biscuits Boulevard Dog Park, she'd be cleaning up after dogs she once banned. I laughed so hard I nearly sprayed coffee everywhere. By evening, Karen's last stand collapsed completely. She published a final resignation on the HOA website. "I withdraw all claims, effective immediately. I wish you peace." It was so toothless that someone printed it on tissue-thin paper and taped it to her empty driveway. 2 days later, movers came. They loaded her boxes into a small U-Haul with a hand-painted sign reading "Karen's Escape." She drove off without a backward glance. I imagine she's now teaching etiquette to palm trees in Florida. Back in our subdivision, life returned to normal. If normal means free dog kisses at every doorstep and impromptu weekend frisbee tournaments. We held the first annual Biscuits Boulevard Parade. Kids in dog costumes, tennis ball confetti, and a float shaped like Biscuit chasing the HOA gavel into a bonfire of burnt violation notices. Karen's name was never mentioned. Her memory lived only in legendary neighborhood lore. At sunset, I walked through the park's rose garden, planted in memory of my late husband's kindness, and paused at the new memorial plaque, in honor of truth, community, and the dog who brought us together. I laid a fresh bouquet at its base. Biscuit trotted over, sniffed the flowers, and barked twice, a perfect beat for celebration. The breeze rustled the leaves like applause. I sat on the pavilion bench, gazing at the joyful chaos. Dogs splashing in the fountain, children squealing on swings, neighbors chatting by the picnic tables. Not a single clipboard in sight. Then my phone buzzed. A text from the HOA board. Congratulations, official dog park manager, parking spot included. I thumbed out a grin emoji and replied, on my way. I stood, pocketed my phone, and uncapped a bottle of sparkling cider from the concession stand. Biscuit nudged my leg. I raised the bottle to him. To victory. He wagged his tail as if to say, to fun. In the distance, I spotted a new family walking their puppy toward the entrance arch. Welcome to Biscuit's Boulevard Dog Park. The sign had two paw prints carved on either side. One mine, one Biscuit's. And I realized Karen had tried to imprison me in lies, but the camera had set me free. She'd tried to ban my dog, but instead she unleashed community spirit. Her false claims collapsed under the weight of truth and a fluffy tail. As night fell, I flicked on the park's string lights. Lanterns glowed like fireflies. The sound system played a mellow tune. Neighbors gathered around a fire pit, no clipboards allowed, and I stood by the edge, watching the embers rise. Looks like Biscuit runs the show now, I whispered. He barked in agreement. And for the first time since this mess began, I felt nothing but pure, unfiltered joy. The end.